As someone that does a lot of TA, obviously, on Bitcoin and crypto space, right now we had breaking news about the Department of Justice releasing some big news. A lot of people, their eyes drawn to this news. It comes out that it's not big news, but there is some big news happening right now. It's equity markets. What's going on with equity markets? From a technical analysis perspective, with where Bitcoin is right now on the macro charts, even on the zoomed in charts, this is so important. And so we're going to cover real quick the Department of Justice news. But I think the bigger news for today is what's happening with equity markets, and we're going to get a look at it right now. Let's go. Talk about a couple hours worth of drama in crypto land. This is Bitcoin on the hourly chart. I want to dissect it, discuss how it plays into this daily chart right here and the importance of it. This is what happened. A couple hours ago, news broke. Department of Justice holding a press conference at 12 to announce a major international cryptocurrency enforcement action. Now, on crypto Twitter, people were really kind of getting into this. This seems like a really big deal. And you can even just see on the Bitcoin chart and the Bitcoin hourly chart, Bitcoin in the last couple hours moving to the downside. Look at that wick on that hourly. But what is this all about? And then you go on to crypto Twitter right now. DOJ takes enforcement action against Russian exchange Bitslato. Dylan Leclerc says, I spend 8+ hours a day following this lovely industry, and I've literally never heard of Bitslato. And I'm right there with you, as probably many of you out there are right there with him in that sentiment. And I'm sure many YouTubers discussing the same thing. What in the world? This seemed like such bigger news than what it is. Now, what's interesting is how we have this shorter term event triggering a move on the short term, right? So right now you can just see the breakout, and it pretty much hit the target out of this rising channel. And right now Bitcoin just making its way back into that channel. The reason why it's important, I did this video yesterday, kind of a caution, an alert video discussing how overbought Bitcoin is on this chart. This is the daily chart, and you can just see, we look at the momentum oscillator, Bitcoin just an extremely overbought environment right now, kind of getting a little bit of a retracement in this slower moving momentum oscillator, the RSI. Zoom out on this for a minute, and I want to show you two pieces of data. Number one is, if you just look at last time Bitcoin was this overbought, it was here, January 2021, and this was in the bull market, and it was back here, and this is a very crucial area. This is April 2019. Now, this is kind of where things get exciting. It's kind of like, well, what area are we more in tune with, right? Where is there synergy right now? If you look at this move back here, Bitcoin hitting that overbought area January and retracing, obviously. We go to the other overbought area, and this was back here in 2019 when Bitcoin was just as overbought as it is right now. And you can see it on this chart, overbought. Look at this. This is Bitcoin exiting the bear market, right? So here's what happened. Bitcoin got crazy overbought right here in this move above the 786 line, this macro indicator that we use on this YouTube channel. And Bitcoin just crazy overbought. And look at this, consolidating to the upside, higher highs and higher lows, all the while, if you look at the RSI, kind of getting some consolidation to the downside. So this consolidation, a pullback in terms of momentum that you see here, not a bad thing. This is really what we want to see on the Bitcoin charts today, right? So if we kind of go over here to the RSI, we do need this to cool down a little bit. It would be good to see this Bitcoin chart cool down a little bit. The question is, if we start looking at Bitcoin on the daily chart, will we get a similar type of setup where Bitcoin is kind of maybe just sideways or just sideways and up in a rising channel of sorts as that RSI kind of cools down? It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out. One thing just to note is we have to continue to maintain just vigilance. I think this 200-day moving average is down here around 19,500, 20-day moving average down here around 18,200, and the 50-day moving average confluent with the 786 line right around 17,400. This entire area is, whether it happens to the downside or these moving averages get pulled into a sideways Bitcoin, these moving averages need to be tested. As just somebody that sits here doing technical analysis and watching these Bitcoin charts over the years, we want to see these areas tested. These are confirmation areas. For me, these are areas I wait for as bullish or bearish signals. What happens when Bitcoin tests these moving averages, namely the 20-day, the 50-day, as these start getting pulled into Bitcoin? That's a big indicator in the macro shift of Bitcoin bears to bulls. If you go back here, this is the 2019 exit out of the bear market. What was happening? Well, you can just see Bitcoin maintaining support kind of above these moving averages. The 20-day moving above the 50 and then Bitcoin just seeing support above these moving averages. Look at that. That's the bullish environment we want to see Bitcoin operate in. Just so notable, though, is just the daily chart, the similarities in the daily chart right now compared to that 2018 to 2019 bear market formation. You just see Bitcoin making such a similar move. So here's Bitcoin right now on the daily chart, popping above that 786 line, above the 200-day moving average. And then all the way back here it is in 2018 to 2019 formation, popping above the 786 line, above the 200-day moving average. Going back here to the hourly chart, I think it will be interesting now because when we track patterns, right? We track, and it doesn't matter if an event triggered the breakout to the bottom, to the target, or close to the target at the very least. What we track now is what happens at the trend line. Any pattern, whether it's a triangle that Bitcoin's falling below, what happens when it gets pulled back into a trend line, right? And even to the upside, that we'd be doing the same thing. What happens when it throws back to the trend line? Is there support there for continuation? And the same thing right now. Bitcoin fell to the downside on the short term, pops back up to the upside, and you can see Bitcoin right now at that lower trend line of this zoomed in chart. I think outside of this Department of Justice news, what actually might be more notable, especially now that we see what the news actually is what's happening over here on the S&P 500. I don't think we should get so distracted on the crypto drama that's happening with that news, and we should actually start focusing on the charts that we really do know from historical data is really having an impact on Bitcoin and crypto markets. And that's this chart right here. We've been discussing this a lot, which is to say, after these swing lows that the S&P 500 has been in, it comes down and it tests these moving averages, most recently a 200-day moving average. And you can see if we zoom in on this chart, 200-day moving average being broken right now. So right now, as this S&P 500 chart falls, what will happen with crypto markets in the short term? This is what I'm watching right now on the short term. It translates to the hourly, but we just saw how this is so important on the daily chart. We go over to the daily chart right now. We have room to the downside. We have room to the downside on the actual price action chart, but we also just have room to the downside on this chart, which is the RSI. We just saw what it looked like coming out of the bear market in the last bear market, 2018 to 2019, and we can see or speculate what it could look like on this chart, which is maybe trickling down a little bit, consolidation. It's not a bad thing. It's something I'm watching for. All in all, everybody, if Bitcoin the bulls just turn on the burners and they just continue to the upside, it will be very interesting to track, but that's for another video. Right now, I just want to see how Bitcoin kind of bounces off of this news and also how it reacts to what's going on in equity markets, because it's a big deal. It means a lot to crypto right now. So let's continue to watch all of these things play out. Going over to the weekly, it's just a crazy, crazy chart to look at. This is truly, I think, the pivot point, the beginning of market shifting from bear to bull. I say it often, this could be a multi-month move. This could be a multi-month process. For me, this is just the way I see the charts. I'm just sharing it with you. But for me, I just want to prepare. I want to have an anticipation and just kind of bring into play patience for all of these anticipations as we work our way through this bear market bottom formation and the pivot of bears to bulls on the macro. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you're doing out there. Hit the like, please. It means a lot to me, your support of this channel. Hit that subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.